Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share small, atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned and share them with us as well so we can learn from them. As always, this show is sponsored by the reverse podcast method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everyone hates. We use this method to put 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is Sam Swidzinski, and I hope I said that right. He's the owner of Schologists, providing AI tech building for assessments and intervention for students with cognitive challenges. So, Sam, welcome to the show today. I want to start off with a question that I always start off with, which is this: if you were able to go back to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you'd give yourself?
Ooh, fantastic question. There's a lot, but if I was to learn one thing again for certain, it would be that it's okay to delegate. I think the main problem that I had at the start was that I didn't know how to delegate, but the main problem was I didn't feel like I should be allowed to. I felt like it was almost wrong. So I felt like I should be, I'm the person owning this. I should be doing all of this stuff. Is almost me being lazy if I don't. So if there was one thing that I would try to learn is to delegate better right from the beginning.
Yeah, I love what you've said around that because I think this is at the heart of a really big challenge for a lot of people. As you said, you felt it was wrong, almost that you shouldn't be doing that. Can you expand on that a little bit more and what you needed to go through to learn that there's nothing wrong with that? And it's actually something that sabotages your business if you don't learn to get through that.
I actually had a mentor who I had a chat with, and I told him that I'm really bad at delegating and I don't know how to learn how to delegate. And I didn't have the self-awareness yet that the reason was because I didn't feel comfortable with it. And he just was a really brutal guy that just would tell me exactly how it was. And he just said, it's not that you don't know how to do it, you just don't want to. And then I really just after that moment, I sort of self-reflected and I realized, okay, I just need to start. And I just need to think about, okay, what can I get offloaded off my back? And how can I focus more on the strategy rather than getting so wrapped up into the day-to-day? So yeah, it was actually a mentor who helped me.
Yeah, which is why it's so important to have mentors for sure in what we do. When you're talking about the delegation part of it, what are some of the key things for people that maybe are holding on too much to stuff? What are some of the first things to delegate? And then for people that do delegate and they're like, yeah, is there a kind of a next level of delegation to help them grow their business that you found as well? So kind of a two-part question there for you.
Two very good questions. I think for right near the beginning, the most important things to delegate is any of the tedious tasks that are holding you back. Because obviously you can get so focused on responding to little things that happen constantly. And because of that, you can't focus on what you need to do. And I think that's for that reason, sort of little day-to-day operational based things is the first thing that you want to delegate. I think the second stage of delegation is delegating things that you think that other people will be better than you at. So, I think that one thing that's important for a founder is to at least understand to a base level a load of stuff across a bunch of categories, but you can't be a specialist in every single area. So finding those people that can be better than you at that is the next stage, I think, of delegation and allowing them to do it. But then I think that there's a third stage, and that's the one that I'm currently trying to navigate, and is the one that I am still learning now, and that's essentially to delegate to delegators. And if you've got a person on your team who's having more of a leadership role, how to give them the freedom to then delegate to the people who are under their charge. And that's what I'm right at the beginning at right now. So I'm still trying to navigate that at the moment.
Yeah, I love that progression of that. And then at the stage where you are now of going, okay, I've got people in there that can manage other people and just say, look, this is what we need to do. And being able to have that trust in them to be able to delegate those things and know that that's being done, which, yeah, I love it. It's a great progression along that, which is absolutely phenomenal. Well, throughout, I know we've been talking about delegation, but throughout your business, I'd love to hear like what's the biggest challenge that you've had so far that's really maybe even shaken you a little bit. Maybe just it's been a quite a big challenge for you. And what's the number one lesson that you learned from that?
Wow. There's a few things come to my mind. Um, I think I think one of the biggest lessons is that you can't control everything. And sometimes you're just in a hugely unlucky circumstance. So I think one good example was for the very first educational program that we ran. The students that we were with and we were looking after with for that program, they actually flew in from another location for them to experience our program, but their plane was extremely delayed, and they actually ended up arriving at midnight. And then all of a sudden, the coach, the company that we had at that time organized, refused to come because they said that the driver was unwell and not, and they didn't have any drivers available at that late time, and they were almost angry with us that the plane was delayed. So we ended up in a safeguarding situation of we've got all of these kids, we got to make sure that they get back safe. And it was pouring down with rain. It was a dreadful day, and it's the very first program that we were running, and we had this huge issue. And essentially, we managed to obviously, I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't, but we managed to get everyone back safe. And we had to do taxis, and we had to get everyone into each taxi in a safe way, which meant that some people had to wait behind with luggage and things like that. In terms of staff, we had to get extra staff there. So that was probably the reason why that came to my mind. Was it was that first, because it was right near the beginning, and it was that first massive problem that I struggled to sleep at night afterwards. As you can imagine, I was, very, very nervous after that event. And I feel as if what it taught is, firstly, that you can't control everything. Sometimes things aren't going to go as planned, and you have to have that almost that enough amount of stretch in your team, or enough capacity to be able to handle a situation like that. And what I would have done differently was probably had more specific backup plans in case of anything going wrong, because you can't control that everything that is happening in that instance will actually go as right. So I think that was up there with the most challenging, from just purely because it was right at the beginning. But I'm happy to give other examples of things that are more business related. That was a very much operational based one.
Well, I think that's a great example though, because I think the principle behind it applies to so many things in business. It's just the unexpected. Obviously, you're not in control of flights and delays and weather and all that sort of stuff. And, being able to manage that in a quite stressful situation, because, if it was adults, it'd be a little bit different. They could just get taxis on themselves or whatever, but it's children, and so I think that's a great example around that. I think, that lesson of learning, okay, what do we do in terms of contingency plans next time, and so that you can start sleeping better for future events, and I think that's just a really great thing that, whenever we go through challenges, we're going to face them. We're going to have, things we didn't even know to think about. We think it's all covered, and then new things pop up. You're like, oh, I didn't even know to think about that. Well, putting them in place just helps your overall processes flow so much smoother down the road, which is, I think, a really great thing for what you're doing. Well, if we look over the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years of your business, what are your goals that you're wanting to achieve, Sam?
In the next 2 to 3 from now.
Yeah, yeah.
So the first thing is I want the tech that we're producing to be something that I'm proud to ship, basically, and for people to have. I feel as if I really care about what we're developing, and I think that's what's going to make it strong. And I just feel as if I want it to be so friendly to users that people are actually wanting to use it. Because I think the main problem that you have for, let's say, interventions for different mental health struggles or cognitive struggles is that they might work if people are using them, but are people going to use them? That's the big question. And I think this is what universities or institutions like that aren't particularly good at. So I think that's the main thing. I want to create something that I'm proud to ship, that other people are going to think, wow, I actually want to use this. And I think that's going to be the instrumental aspect of our success.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's really amazing. Well, for people that are wanting to learn more about what you do and just look you up, what's the best place? Is there a website or a social media that would be good for them to go to?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect with people there and have discussions. So yeah, I'd say main thing is LinkedIn. In terms of our social profile, in terms of what we're actually producing, in terms of our tech, we're holding a little bit back now because when we want to showcase what we're doing, we want it to be something that really wows, and we're not quite at that stage yet. So we wanna have that full launch of our tech in the next steps.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Well, everyone that wants to learn more about Sam, please do follow him on LinkedIn and send him a message for anything that he's working on that might be helpful for you as well. Sam, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a great privilege having you here. And as a reminder for everyone, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse podcast method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next episode, stay inspired.